Moving to Clearwater Heights was supposed to be a fresh start. A quieter place, clean sidewalks, and peaceful nights. Everything a man recovering from lung surgery needed. After the accident, my life depended on a portable oxygen tank that hummed gently beside me, connected to my nose day and night. I knew it was strange to some, but it kept me alive. Most of my neighbors were kind. They helped me with groceries, waved when I rolled past in my mobility scooter, and even checked in occasionally. But then there was her, HOA Vice President Karen Rutherford, the suburban storm in lipstick and pearls. The moment she saw my oxygen tank at the community barbecue, her eyes narrowed like I was bringing down her property value just by breathing. "This is a private community," she'd said, tapping her clipboard. "We can't have medical machinery cluttering the sidewalks. You'll need to keep that inside." I tried to explain it's portable. It goes with me. It's not clutter. It's life support. She sniffed and walked off, muttering something about how everyone's a victim nowadays. I dismissed her as a typical HOA busybody. But then strange things started happening. My welcome mat vanished. A note appeared on my front door. "HOA expects compliance with aesthetic standards." My potted plants were moved. I started to get nervous. Then one morning I found her in my yard. Yes, in my yard. Clipboard in hand, sunglasses on, inspecting my porch like it was a crime scene. "What are you doing?" I asked, wheezing slightly. My tank hissed quietly behind me. "You've been warned," she snapped. "Your medical gear is unsightly. This isn't a hospital." I stared in disbelief. She turned and marched off before I could say a word. 2 nights later, I woke up gasping. My chest felt like it was caving in. My oxygen line, it was off. Not loose, disconnected. Panic kicked in. I scrambled to reconnect it, trembling. My fingers fumbled, vision blurred. I barely managed to get the air flowing again. That was the night I installed the camera. And what I saw next would shock me and land Karen in handcuffs. After that terrifying night, I didn't sleep. My heart was racing more from fear than oxygen loss. What if I hadn't woken up in time? What if next time I didn't make it? That morning, I installed a motion-triggered camera near the side of my porch. Small, discreet, and facing the area where my oxygen tank cable lay when I rested on the front bench. I didn't want to believe Karen would go that far. But part of me knew. The next few nights were uneventful. I kept the tank inside when I could, but even then, I had to leave it outside occasionally when I sat on the porch to get fresh air. That's when she struck. It was 2:38 a.m. when the notification hit my phone. Motion detected. I opened the footage with trembling fingers. There she was, HOA Karen, creeping up my driveway like a nosy ninja in Crocs. She tiptoed to my porch, crouched and scanned the area. Then, with a quick jerk of her hand, she yanked the oxygen line out of the tank. No gloves, no hesitation. She actually smirked as she walked away. My jaw dropped. This wasn't just harassment anymore. It was attempted manslaughter. She knew what that line was for. She knew it kept me alive. I immediately saved the footage to a USB drive and sent a copy to my nephew, who's a lawyer. He was furious. "She tampered with life-saving equipment," he said. "You're pressing charges. I'll handle everything." The next day, I visited the police station with my nephew. The officer watching the footage turned pale. "This isn't just a dispute," he muttered. "This is criminal endangerment." Within 2 hours, 2 officers knocked on Karen's door. She came out in her usual khakis and HOA-branded fleece, still holding that ridiculous clipboard. "What's this about?" she asked, her voice dripping with mock innocence. "We need to ask you some questions regarding a medical equipment tampering incident," the officer said sternly. When they mentioned oxygen tank, her face twitched. "I don't know what you're talking about," she snapped. "We have surveillance footage." Silence. Karen's mouth opened, then closed. For the first time since I'd moved in, Karen had nothing to say, and then they cuffed her. The neighbors watched from their windows. A few even clapped. HOA Karen, the queen of citations and community. Complaints was being led away in handcuffs. But it wasn't over. Not by a long shot, because what she said at the police station made it all worse. At first, I thought Karen might cry or beg, or claim she had no idea what she was doing. But no. This woman doubled down. At the precinct, after sitting in silence for 30 minutes, she finally said something to the officers that left them stunned. "I didn't think it would kill him," she huffed. "It was just a warning." People like him can't expect special treatment forever. This is a community, not a care home. That quote, word for word, went into the official police report. My nephew got a copy and read it aloud to me. I stared at the wall in disbelief. A warning? Disabling someone's oxygen tank wasn't a prank. It was potentially fatal. Karen didn't just trespass or break HOA policy, she crossed, into criminal territory. Reckless endangerment, criminal negligence, and possibly attempted homicide depending on how the investigation unfolded. By that evening, the story had already started to circulate. The local news picked up the incident. Their headline? HOA Vice President arrested for disconnecting. Residents' life support oxygen tank. The comments online were brutal. Who the hell tampers with someone's oxygen tank? Lock her up. This is why people hate HOAs. Some of the neighbors came by embarrassed, saying they never supported Karen's extremes. Even a few HOA board members knocked on my door to apologize personally. One woman even brought cookies, but I wasn't interested in apologies. I wanted accountability. My nephew began the process of filing a civil suit, not just for damages, for emotional distress, physical endangerment, and long-term trauma. We weren't just fighting for justice for me, we were making an example. Meanwhile, Karen's bail was denied. The judge saw the footage and heard her statement. He called it deliberate and life-threatening behavior with no regard for human life. From jail, Karen began calling other HOA board members, trying to spin the story. But it was too late. They voted unanimously to remove her from the board. Her community influence was gone, but she still had one card left to play. A letter arrived from her defense attorney. Inside, a settlement offer, a big one, and a non-disclosure agreement. Karen wanted to pay me off in exchange for my silence. But I wasn't interested in money. I wanted the world to know exactly what she did. The letter sat on my kitchen table like a bomb. A legal settlement offer, 6 figures, more than I'd ever seen in one place. But it came with an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement that would legally bind me to never speak about what Karen did, never share the footage again, and never publicly mention her name. I didn't need to think about it. I handed the letter to my nephew and said, "We're going to court." The next few weeks were a blur of depositions, media interviews, and community fallout. Karen's face appeared on local news, HOA forums, and even some national headlines. She went from petty neighborhood tyrant to a symbol of dangerous HOA overreach. She tried to change her plea to guilty with explanation. Her lawyer argued she was overwhelmed and acting under stress. But the judge didn't flinch. In court, the prosecutor played the surveillance footage. The entire room went silent as Karen's smirk flickered on the screen, and her hand gripped my oxygen line like it was a weed she was pulling. I sat in the courtroom, breathing steadily through my tank, surrounded by supporters, neighbors, local activists, and even strangers who'd heard the story and showed up to stand with me. When the judge finally delivered the verdict, the words felt like a fresh breath of air. "Karen Rutherford, you are hereby found guilty of reckless endangerment and criminal negligence. Your actions put another person's life at risk, and your motive was nothing but cruelty dressed up as community regulation." She was sentenced to 18 months in county jail, mandatory mental health counseling, and barred from holding any HOA or community position for 10 years. Outside the courthouse, cameras flashed. Reporters asked me how I felt. I looked at the lens and said, "Oxygen keeps me alive." Karen tried to take that from me. But justice is what really helped me breathe again. The clip went viral. Karen's name became a cautionary tale in HOA circles across the country. Her house eventually went up for sale. She vanished from the neighborhood. As for me, I still sit on my porch sometimes, oxygen tank humming beside me, watching the sun dip behind the rooftops. But now people don't stare at the tank like it's an eyesore. They see it for what it really is, a reminder that no one, no matter how powerful they think they are, gets to decide who deserves to breathe.